Okay, up until about 2 seconds ago, I've been scared to say this, but screw it. We only got like 3 days left to live anyway, right? So, isn't moving all of the Jewish people to I-word exactly what Schmittler wanted? Right? Like, saying that I-word needs to exist so that Jewish people have a place to go is us saying they're not safe anywhere else, correct? We're gonna pen them all in a place that they're not from and push out the people that are there because people are not gonna let the Jewish people live everywhere. It feels like this is just sanctioning and making it okay to send all of your Jewish people to I-word, because I feel like that's where it's going, you know? Like, that's where this is going. So, anyway, I found this clip too. Watch this.
Secret negotiation between the Nazis and the Zionists in 1933, which allowed German Jews and their assets to go to Palestine.
I lived in Palestine from 1933 to 1936. And we saw every week transports of German Jews coming to settle in Palestine.
In the Berlin paper Der Angriff, the publisher, Hitler's propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels. A Nazi Visits Palestine was the title of the multi-part series. A medal was struck by Goebbels in commemoration. On one side, the swastika. On the other, the Star of David. But a group of Zionists at the same time was quietly negotiating an agreement with the Nazis to allow the immigration of German Jews and the transfer of their assets to Palestine. That deal, reported in August 1933, was the transfer agreement. Palestine, sparsely settled by Jews at the time, was radically changed as a result.
Wait, the Zios and the business extremist Nancys? Wait, you're saying that they were on the same team and that all Jewish people essentially are just kind of scapegoats in this? Right? Like, that agreement that they're talking about, the transfer agreement, is called the Havara Agreement. You see, it said, there was too much abuse going on in Europe, so we're going to allow Jewish people to keep some of their possessions if they leave. If they stay, we're keeping all of their possessions and we're going to make them perish. Okay? So this transfer agreement was like, you could leave Germany and keep half of your stuff if you moved to Palestine, okay? And do you want to know why they did this? You know what this was for? This was to break the 1933 Nazi boycott that was beating the ever-living fuck out of the Nazis. The 1933 Nazi boycott was an international boycott of German products in response to violence and harassment by members of Schmittler's Nazi Party against Jews, following his appointment as Chancellor of Germany, which was, you know, he was appointed dictator, essentially. Organized campaign of violence and boycotting was undertaken by the Nazis against Jewish businesses. And look, Göring said this, I shall employ the police and without mercy wherever German people are hurt, but I refuse to turn the police into a guard for Jewish stores. So you know what they did? They said, cool, we're gonna boycott Germany. And the whole world started doing it, bro. You wanna know how we got rid of apartheid South Africa? Boycotts. In a meeting held at the Hotel Knickerbocker, Jewish veterans of the United States of America, former Congressman William W. Cohen, advocated a strict boycott of German goods, stating that any Jew buying 1 penny's worth of merchandise made in Germany is a traitor to his people. A series of protests were held, and there was a Madison Square Garden thing with 55,000 people. Dude, look at this. We need to do this immediately. The boycott forced the resignation of the Hamburg American line. The whole board had to resign. Goebbels expressed that it was cause for much concern at his first Nuremberg Party rally that August. The boycott was perhaps most effective in mandatory Palestine, especially against German pharmaceutical companies, with nearly 2/3 of the 652 practicing Jewish doctors in Palestine stopped prescribing German medicines. Ideas. A significant event in the boycott took place on March 15th, 1937, when a Boycott Nazi Germany rally was held at Madison Square Garden. So you know what they did? The Goebbels put brown shirts of the SA outside of Jewish-owned department stores, retail establishments, and professional offices. Star of David was painted in yellow and black on retail entrances and windows, and posters asserting, "Don't buy from Jews," and "The Jews are our misfortune," were pasted around. Physical violence against Jews and vandalism of Jewish-owned property took place, but the police intervened only rarely. The other police. They're probably the ones perpetrating the violence. Boycott was not successful in ending the harassment of Jews in Germany, which instead continued to build towards the Holocaust. The Havara Agreement with the German rearmament and lessened dependence on trade with the West had, by 1937, largely negated the effects of the Jewish boycott on Germany. Nevertheless, the boycott campaign continued until 1939. They boycotted VW, Mercedes, and BMW. You want to know what else they did to turn everyone against Jewish people too? Have you guys ever heard of a flag of falsity? You guys ever heard of the Reichstag fire? It's just a classic FBI false flag, like always. Where do you think they got it? The guys who made the CIA did the Reichstag fire. Literally, it was like Göring or Goebbels or one of them bragged, like laughed years later after they executed a Jewish communist by beheading him after lighting their own parliament on fire and then blaming it on some random guy. Anyway, so they blamed it all on him, and then they used that to okay more violence and harassment against Jewish people, just like they're doing here. Just like they're gonna do until we're okay with them doing WW3. You know? They're gonna have, "Oh, Palestinian terrorist does 9/11 too!" And don't worry though, Larry Silver took out an insurance policy. He's good. He's covered. But yeah, guys, this is what they do. They manufacture lies. They start fire to their own things and then say someone else did it, because that's what they do. That's why we do it. Do you understand? It's the same people. Well, it's their kids, you know? Same freaking people running stuff. Their kids now learned it from them, and they're dum-dums. They have no brains, so they just keep repeating the cycle. They say, "Okay, let's do the Reichstag fire. We got this. Let's do the beer hall putsch." Like, it's all the same. It's all the same. This is why they do it. Because then they can say, "Oh, Article 48, actually, sorry, you guys don't have any civil rights anymore because you guys did the fire." But they leave out the part where they didn't do the fire. It was the Nazis who did the fire, you know? So anyway, this is coming for us. So whenever something big and bad happens and it was a Palestinian, you know, they try and do another Sirhan. They mess with another Palestinian's brain until they can trick them into, like, firing at the president or something. You guys know Sirhan was Palestinian, right? That they tried to do this with Sirhan, bro. They did. They tried to pin it on a Palestinian. That's what they were doing with Sirhan. That's why they want to be able to brain mash people until they go out and do, like, you know, these Manchurian Candidate things. Because then they can say, "Oh, let's get a person who will say that they're ISIS. Oh, let's get a person who says that they're Houthi." You know? This is all they do. It's the same thing. Look at the language they use. These subhumans do not understand how the people stand at our side in their mouse hole. These subhumans. Sounds really familiar, right? It sounds like what people would call, you know, Palestinians if they were, like, okay with using an AI to annihilate them, you know? So anyway, do you guys see how even the motivation of doing I-word is literally just bending the knee for Schmittler? This is what he wanted, and we're doing it. It's wild. Like, the business extremists are our enemies, okay? And this all ends with us in slavery if we don't stop it. All of us. Everyone.